Making pancakes, making bacon pancakes. Take some bacon and I'll put it in a pancake. Bacon pancakes, that's what it's gonna make. Bacon pancakes. Bacon pancakes, making bacon pancakes.
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Binging with Babish, where this week we're saying goodbye to Adventure Time, who had their final episode last week. This is a show rife with food, chief among which might be pancakes, sandwiches, and Prismo's artisanal pickles, which, despite having no information as to how they're made, we're going to try and recreate. First up, some classic dill pickles, which starts with a brine made from equal parts water and plain white vinegar, to which we are going to add 25 grams of kosher salt and 100 grams of plain white sugar. Once you've got those all added together, deploy your tiny whisk for proper dissolution, and then it's time to address the aspect of cooking. Now, the lower temperature at which pickles are pickled, the crispier they become. This to me sounds like a job for sous vide, because while conventional methods call for boiling, we can keep our crispy little Kirby's at 140 degrees Fahrenheit, thus ensuring their texture for future generations, at least 6 months from now, which is how long these pickles will last at room temperature. So we're slicing our Kirby's in half and peeling an entire head of garlic, setting aside a habanero pepper for any desired hotness, and rinsing and drying a few bunches of dill, fresh dill, along with our dried pickling spices, which we're going to start layering in our canning jars. About half our garlic, 2 or 3 dried bay leaves, a few bunches of fresh dill, and then a sprinkling each at your discretion, allspice berries, mustard seeds, I like lots and lots of those, a few whole cloves, 1 healthy handful of whole peppercorns, 2 or 3 daring dashes of red pepper flake if you want a little spice, and that's about it. It's time to start packing in our cucumbers for their long, hot nap. Make sure they've got just enough room in there to venture around if they see so fit for the sake of flavor. Drop the rest of the garlic cloves on top, fill with brine, leaving 1 centimeter of headroom between the liquid and the top of the jar, seal finger tight, shake around like some sort of flavorful snow globe, and place into a 140 degree preheated sous vide bath for 2.5 hours, during which time we're going to do a whole bunch of other stuff, including but not limited to making lacto-fermented pickles, or sour pickles. We're loading these guys up with all the same spices, except we've crushed the garlic a little bit more to let the allicin out. Other than that, we're shoving all the same stuff in there: dill, bay leaves, red pepper flake, mustard seed, cloves, allspice, and peppercorn. The major difference here is in the brine. We're making a solely salt and water-based brine, and make sure you use filtered, non-chlorinated water, this time with a ratio of about 100 grams salt to 2 cups of water. Cover the vegetables entirely in your sanitized canning jar, and we're going to let this guy sit for 3 to 7 days at room temperature, burping once a day to let gas escape. So we'll check in on this next week. Until then, don't push it off the table, and once 2.5 hours have elapsed, pull the dill pickles out of the sous vide machine, wipe down, and allow to cool completely to room temperature before refrigerating overnight. And remember, these guys are room temperature stable for up to 6 months until you open them. But you're not going to be able to wait that long, because these artisanal pickles are astounding. Unless you have some sort of Brooklynite waxed mustached weirdo serving you pickles on the regular, you're not going to do much better than this. We'll check in on the lacto-fermented pickles next week when they're ready. For now, we need to make some homemade ketchup for Prismo's sentient sandwich. We're going to start by finely dicing 1 small onion, similarly dicing 5 cloves of garlic, and bringing them over to 1 tablespoon of olive oil that has been heated over medium-high heat until shimmering, into which we are going to deposit the onion, first sweating for 5 to 6 minutes until soft and translucent before adding the garlic, sauteing for an additional 30 seconds to 1 minute or until fragrant, and then adding a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, a 1/4 cup of brown sugar, 1 to 2 tablespoons of molasses depending on viscosity, 1/3 of a cup of apple cider vinegar, and about a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. We're also going to add little sprinklings each of allspice, cinnamon, maybe a little bit more generous sprinkling of chili powder, a little bit less generous sprinkling of ground ginger, and a very, very cautious sprinkling of ground cinnamon. Now we're going to let these flavors get to know each other for at least 1 hour and up to 12. That's right, if you want really deep, complex ketchup, let this guy go for a full 12 hours. If you're like me and you don't really care about ketchup, just let it go for 1 hour, it's fine. Just make sure that it's nice and thick, like so, and then adjust for salt, like so. Taste and season as necessary. Next up, this guy's headed for the big bad blender. Into the confusingly named jar of a blender it goes, being pureed at first on low and then on high, until a smooth, sweet, sassy ketchup is achieved. This stuff is really good, and it only takes a few hours to make, and it will never be as good as the stuff you get in a jar at the supermarket for $4. I highly recommend it. Now finally we can move on to the sentient sandwich itself. We're going to start by cracking 1 free-range Humpty Dumpty into some awaiting fizzling butter in a small non-stick skillet, moving it quickly so as to create a sort of egg custard that we're going to flatten out into a single layer once it holds its own shape. Then we've got a fine aged cheddar man that we're going to grate for the sake of expediency in the melting process, since we are in essence creating an omelet here, and as such we're going to use a spatula to fold this guy over onto itself, hitting it with a freshly ground black pepper fart, and inexplicably placing it onto a rimmed baking sheet, which is going to steal a lot of its heat away, thus preventing the cheese from staying melted, but we gotta stay true to form. We're hitting it with our homemade ketchup and some parsley. It's not dancing, sorry, I don't have access to the same market that BMO has. We're flipping it onto our waiting sandwich bread, flipping it around, and achieving a cross section, perhaps an ill-advised one because I think we know what's waiting in here. Not much. Cold eggs, some cold cheese, and some parsley, which I have to admit didn't taste bad. It is, after all, egg, cheese, and bread, one of the finest combinations in the world, but how do we improve on that? Well, how do you think? With bacon. I mean, how do you improve any sandwich? You add bacon. It's simple physics. And it's also how you become a member of the Clean Plate Club. Now, it wouldn't be an Adventure Time farewell without bacon pancakes, so let's make some fabulous buttermilk pancakes out of 285 grams of all-purpose flour, 35 grams of sugar, a teaspoon and a half of baking powder, a teaspoon and a half of baking soda, and then I foolishly put my teaspoon in the sink, so I don't know, a good pinch of kosher salt. Whisk all your dry ingredients together using a normal-sized whisk, form a well in the center using your fingers, and into that well deposit 2 1/2 cups of buttermilk, to which we are going to also add 2 whole free-range Humpty Dumpties. Then very carefully down the side of the bowl, we are also going to add 3 tablespoons of melted butter while we whisk the whole affair together. Taking care not to over-whisk. It's okay if this guy still has lumps in it, we don't want to develop too much gluten. Once you've got a nice thick pancake batter, it's time to head over to the awaiting cast iron skillet, upon which we are melting 1 tablespoon of butter before ladling on our pancake batter. And you can do this in whatever sizes you like, but I'm trying to go big or go home, so I'm making big old dinner plate sized, Jake approved pancakes, which before flipping I'm going to layer with bacon and then flip, using a big old spatula and remembering not to be discouraged by the look of my first pancake, because as we all know, the first pancake always comes out weird. Rinse and repeat using remaining pancake batter, prove my ugly first pancake theorem now, and keep completed pancakes in a low oven until everyone is ready to serve. I've decided to serve bacon side up. I think it looks good. I'm topping with a pat of butter and maple syrup, and I am digging in. And I gotta say, we got ourselves a clear entrant into the Clean Plate Club. I mean, bacon, maple syrup, and butter is... I can't finish this. Is anybody else hungry? Nice hits. I can't believe I just made these. These are like pickles. Well deserving of mouth love.